Well, hello there, you guys. I have a super special girlfriend jam to share with you today with my pal LeAnn Rimes. Oh, yeah, this woman is so talented. It is mind blowing. I met Lee because I was on her podcast. She was a fan of Boundary Boss, which is so flattering and so nice. And she invited me to be on her podcast, which is called Holy Human, which actually is a phenomenal podcast. And a lot of people who run in my circle have been on her podcast because she herself has been on this healing journey, her own evolutionary journey for the past couple of years. But it was so nice. And we were really bonded and kind of just stayed friendly. And then she has this beautiful, oh my God, this album is amazing. It's called God's Work. That is actually dropping tomorrow, but she's released some of the tracks, and one of them is The Wild. And in this track, which has Mickey Guyton on and Sheila E, it's really speaking so hardcore to what we as women have experienced, and really looking at the patriarchy and how much we were trained to keep us small and sort of keep us quiet. You know, she calls it the silencing and the fracturing of ourselves in order to fit into pretty and polite societal box throughout generations, right? So this is more like that song in particular, and the work on that album is more like a battle cry for us to unite and to reclaim the entirety of ourselves. So, wow, this interview was on fire. She is so phenomenal, LeAnn, so talented, but such a lovely, lovely human being. I really hope that you enjoy my interview with LeAnn Rimes. You can get her album tomorrow, anywhere albums are sold, but also you can pre-order it right this second if you want to. The Wild is one of the first singles off of the album, and it is phenomenal, and the album is called God's Work. I hope you enjoy this interview with LeAnn Rimes. Well, LeAnn Rimes, welcome to the Terri Cole Show.
Thank you so much. You're getting me in my sweats and my braids today because I just came off the road, and this is what happens, and I don't come out of it when I'm home.
You're like, this is relaxation
I'm
mode.
done. I'm done.
I mean, you are
Yeah.
bringing those so much, LeAnn. I was talking at the top about the new album dropping tomorrow, how exciting. But what I've seen you sing The Wild and other ones like a bunch of different times, and I cannot believe the amount of energy required. So did you think about that when you were writing The Wild?
I did. The Wild was really interesting. We wrote that song. It took us 5 times to write that song, and usually that's not the case. And there was a lot of emotion that was stirred up in that for me personally, and I think I was tapping into a lot of collective rage and trauma for generations when we wrote that. And I knew what it would require to perform, but at the same time, no one can quite prepare you for that like first performance. And I've started to settle into it more. I've performed it a few times now, and the first couple of times I was shaking, like I was I was terrified because coming from me, I don't think I've utilized my voice in that capacity before and made it took such a stance on something that and expressed my own rage and anger and grief through music in that way. So yeah, I don't say much about it when I perform it because it says so much. I just let the audience kind of take it in. But now a few times into it, I'm really settled into like the power of it, and it feels really amazing.
What I think is great. So I have the lyrics pulled up because I'm obsessed with this song. It's just so, here's the thing, LeAnn, it's not just me. It's anyone hearing this song. We resonate so hardcore because of our life experiences. Be quiet, shut down, shut up. Don't be a good girl. Don't stir the pot. Like, don't be the full expression of yourself, right? Because it's too scary for us So
Yeah.
we have, all of us, like, it resonated. I can't even explain it. Like you said, you were shaking. I feel like the first time I heard this song, I was shaking, like to the core of,
You're gonna make me cry.
but it's the truth, the
Yes.
recognition of our shared experience. It's so liberating, scary, enraging, painful, all of the things, but it
All of
starts
it.
with the persecution of the woman. The burning has gone on for too fucking long. The virgin is shattered, her blood on the door. She can't claim the lover without claiming the whore. Like, just that beginning part. Be sexy, don't be a slut. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, very
just,
much.
it's just exhausting.
And what's interesting about those words for me too, I was actually reading, believe the book is called Mary Magdalene
Yep.
Revealed, and I was reading that at the time when I wrote it, and it hit me deeply. In fact, I've gone back and reread. I'm rereading it right now, currently, and to remind myself why I wrote this song. And there was something, I went through a very public affair, and I call it the crucifixion because I feel like we all get crucified at many times, and if we're lucky, many times in our life, in the way that it changes us and it teaches us. And for me, that was such a public projection of other women, of other people's rage and hurt that got directly projected onto me. And so I have those words to me, and, growing up in the spotlight like I did, people wanting to keep me a little girl, not really wanting me to be a woman, and then me having to figure out my own sense of sexuality and for myself, and that's taken years. So much shame and guilt around just stepping into my womanhood. So those words for me, like, there's so many layers to, she can't claim the lover without claiming the whore, is like deep.
Yeah.
And I think those four lines were probably the scariest things that I've ever written. I remember writing it and going, can I say that? Am I driving my own nail into my
Right.
coffin? But what's so liberating about that is, like you were saying, I think we, as women, just as human beings, but as women especially, it is a collective experience. And when, as an artist, I can give words to such a deep collective experience, it liberates me, it liberates others. And I feel like as a creator, like that's part of my gift to the world. That's what I'm here to do.
But it is striking such a chord, though, and of course, I'm not surprised that it is. And here's the thing: you, and in some respects, Lee, before the affair, before this stuff, it's like, you're America's sweetheart. Like, people are looking to you, and like you said, they want you to stay like the good girl. They want you to stay young. They're looking for something, and I think that it's twice as powerful to a degree coming from you, because you're
Yeah.
normalizing that you can't have the holy without the wild, is what you're saying. And what I interpret that to mean,
Yeah.
and you tell me if I'm wrong, is that you'll never get to the holy if we can't be authentic, right? The light and the
Absolutely.
dark, both sides of us. And it's interesting, my girlfriend, actually, Megan Watterson, wrote Mary Magdalene Revealed. She's
She's amazing.
just amazing, and such a unique human being who's a very special person. And she's written other books too, but that's an
Yeah,
amazing book. In sort of
it really is.
reclaiming ourselves and our ability to have the light and dark. So why now for you? Why now for this album, for this content,
I just felt very called. It was what came through, and I think artistically, sometimes I don't know why I'm writing things, and a lot of the times I write things and step into them fully, and I try to allow the creativity to flow through without questioning, and that's what happened with this record. It just came, it kept coming, and I think I was at a place where I was able to receive these songs and speak on topics that can be messy. It's coming through my heart. Like, ultimately, that's the thing, is I mean, you see how emotional I get talking about it. It's just, it was just something that I was being asked to do, and I think I was ready for it. And it took, we started writing this album in at the beginning of 2019, and then life happened, and we finished writing it during the pandemic, and then we recorded it the strangest way to ever record an album. Everybody recorded their pieces of it like at home in their sweats, and then we put it all together. So we really were challenged, and what came through, I think, as tapping into what we were experiencing as a collective at the time, reimagining a new world, questioning some of our deepest fundamental ideas of life and religion and sexuality, tapping into the grief. Like there was so much over the last 3 years, I guess, that I had to grow into in order for this record to come out. So trusting in divine timing. I mean, The Wild was written in early 2020, and everyone thinks it's about Roe versus Wade. And I'm like, no, it just so happened that life, it all kind of lined up to be released around the same time. And this is, these are narratives that we keep repeating over and over again. Like they apply since the dawn of time. So, yeah, it's amazing how the universe is kind of lined up and how I had to be ready in order to be able to bring this through.
So tell me about your collaborators. Why Sheila E? Why Mickey Guyton? Like, why the ones, these beautiful, wild women, but why them, or how did that come about?
Well, for the record, we really touched upon a lot of different world grooves, and I love percussion, and so it just moves my soul. So I really wanted this album to be like groove oriented and heavy. And Sheila is just, I mean, I listened to Prince my whole life, and Sheila is incredible. And so the Wild is really basically drums and vocals. And so there's not much else on the record. So she was the first person I thought of that I felt had that wild spirit that could totally make this song come alive. And then Mickey, I love Mickey. She's such a sweet spirit, and she's gone through so much in this industry as a Black woman. And I thought, what powerful words for her to be singing. She's my sister. She's so sweet. So I think there's just a lot of those women kind of embody what I feel like the song is about.
It's so interesting because when I saw who it was, I had such a similar feeling, and I was thinking about Sheila E. And of course, we're all obsessed with her forever, for all of time.
Yes.
But how she's such they broke the mold with someone like Sheila E. Mm-hmm. She was, playing with Prince, doing her thing, and then she was sort of fronting a band, and she had a couple of hits, and then was like, "Hey, man, I really don't want to do that. Like, I really want to play. I want to collaborate. I want to be with other people." Even though she had that success, and like most people, I don't know what most people would do, but I don't think that that's a common story where she's
Right.
just so into. Right, that she just wanted to keep making the music in the way, but collaborating with others. And she's gone, I mean, whatever. I don't need to tell you, but
Yeah, she's incredible. Yeah, and it's funny. I don't actually think we've ever met. I've talked to her now over email because of the song, but she was so gracious to be just. She's like, "Yeah, send it to me. I'll put drums on it. We'll see if we like it." And I remember her calling my manager back, and she's like, "Whoa, this song is intense." So I love helping people feel things, and especially going into places that we don't normally go. And this album truly, truly touches upon some of those emotions where we don't normally go. And it all starts with me first and foremost. Like I think I have to be willing to go there for it to be authentic. And these were crevices in which I was exploring for myself, and then was able to bring through. But yeah, it all starts with self-exploration, and then I'm able to kind of pull it out of people along with me. It's definitely a dance. It's definitely
right.
I'll go there with you. I'm not going to take you there and leave you behind. I'll go there with you.
Right. So, how much, I wonder, because you and I met more personally because I was a guest on your Holy Human
Hmm.
podcast, which I love.
Thank
Um,
you.
and how much do you see the work that you've been doing? Because your podcast is, and you guys, if you aren't listening to this podcast, oh my God, you need to be. It's so amazing. How much does the podcast and the work that you've done? Because we can literally track
Yeah.
the people you've interviewed and the work you've done. So much work on yourself in the last 3 years that I can see that. How much does that impact your ability to put out an album like God's Work?
Oh, it's 100% correlated, directly correlated. Yeah, I'm constantly questioning. I think I'm more curious than I've ever realized, and that curiosity has just built and built and built. And also, I'm super creative and always needing to create. I found that some of my deepest anxiety comes from when I'm not creating something, because it just there's always something kind of trying to come through. Learning that about myself and getting curious and reading and exploring with my podcast guests. It's been a really beautiful experience because I can the podcast and then my chant album that I did in 2020 and then this album all really have a connected. There's a through line to that, and I'm now working on my second chant album. So I feel like I've kind of found my groove in what I'm wanting to bring through in this world, and I know that that will change and shift. But I think like I said, it's about helping people feel. It's about authenticity, and it's about connectivity with each other, with ourselves, and I know, one of my biggest lessons I was so ejected from myself because I had to be like to survive in the world with all these eyes on me. I had to just like be out of body most of the time. And so coming home to myself and being able to get curious about who I am has definitely influenced, everything that I do and everything that I bring through as for art.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about this, the only. So you have Ziggy Marley, you got Ben Harper. Like,
Hmm.
again, the inspiration of who. I'm always so curious to see when people partner up, like, why? So, what was the inspiration for that track?
The only is a total reggae song, which I never thought I would bring forth on a record, but I totally did. And it is really about community. I think, we wrote that song, which the lyric is the only way we're going to get there is to hold each other's hand. I joke in my concerts, I'm like, everybody get out your hand sanitizer and touch one another. But it was right in the middle of COVID. I think we were all so desperately craving human connection and human touch. And the song inspires hopefully us to do connection differently these days. I think we all recognized how much we need one another. Not just, we can't do it alone. We can't just have our significant other. Like we actually need community. And so, yeah, that the pandemic truly inspired that song. Actually, Danielle Laporte was on my podcast and
Yeah.
she actually said that line, the only way we're going to get there is to hold each other's hand. And I wrote it down in the middle of the podcast. And I literally got off the podcast and I came in and I wrote that song because I was just so inspired. I was like, that's such a great line. So Danielle totally inspired that song. Um, and
I love it.
Ziggy, yeah, Ziggy, when we went the reggae route, I was like, I need to get someone to like really solidify this reggae sound. So Ziggy jumped on, and then Ben Harper, and then Lettucey. And if you look at their body of work, I think we're all very similar in heart and mind, and we're all bringing through similar messages out into the world. So it is a very eclectic group of people. I love how much community is on this record. Like so many people that I asked to be a part of this all said yes, and which I was like a kid in a candy store because I don't ever assume, anybody's ever going to say yes to something, an offer like that. So they all did, and I just have so many fantastic, cool, unique people on this record.
But how does it feel to make the record you wanted to make?
It feels so rewarding. Um, it feels rewarding to know that I also said yes to what was coming through without, it's so easy to judge our creations and think to ourselves like, that's stupid. I'm not writing this, or that's too much, or I'm too much, or
Yep.
this message is too big for me. I'm not worthy of holding it. Like, these are all things that have gone through my mind. And I just kind of have to move that part of myself aside and be like, nope, we're not listening to you today. We're going to write this, and then we can judge it later. We're going to create this and judge it later. And,
Right.
every single song, like, it really came from, like I said, my own curiosity, my own questioning of life, my own questioning of my beliefs, which I find the more I bring through albums like this, I find that it is all about questions. It's not about answers. Like, I don't, the more I think I know, the more I don't. And it's constantly shifting. And releasing this record, I thought I knew where I stood on so many things. And then I started to like go through this moment of really questioning even myself and like what I was putting out. And I think there's a healthy questioning in that, like really, constantly refining what life looks like for me. And how I think my refining is constantly like, how can I be more inclusive of people? Because I know there's a lot of people that won't agree with what I have to say, and that's okay. Like, I've come up against it on social media already, and that's okay.
Yep.
We're all on our own path, and I think the clearer I get about that, the easier it is for me to put these concepts out into the world.
The first thing I thought, honestly, when I first saw you singing The Wild and then got into the album was, or the things that are released, was how much of a boundary boss you
Ooh.
really have become, because it requires just releasing something this powerful and could be construed as controversial from some people, but also it's something that I believe would be slightly unexpected from those who only know you from your public persona. I think people who really know you actually are not like, wow, this is shocking.
No, not
They're
at all.
not.
Yeah.
They're like, about time. But for you, the boundaries that you needed to put in place is exactly what you just described. Like, the part of the brain that's like, don't do it, you're going to get in trouble, people aren't going to like it, that you were able to. So how did you manage those feelings of fear to keep going?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I believe that I have learned to allow my heart to guide me more than my brain.
Amazing.
I like to think so. And especially with my creativity, I've just learned that questioning and that fear is part of the process. And there's always going to be a little girl in me who's not ready. And so I just have to kind of bring her along for the ride, be like, we're good. I just have reminding myself, we're okay, we're safe. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to release this even a year ago. I can see how much I've grown when people do come back with different opinions on social media. And I'm like, cool, like, call me whatever
Yeah.
you'd like. Like, but I think there's I'm so solid in knowing my own heart that nothing really quite phases me anymore. And I'm one of those people that sees things from every different angle. And I see why people have certain belief systems that they have. I was one of those people at one time. And so I totally get it. And I have so much compassion for it. And I'm not here to like ask people to change their beliefs. I'm just asking them to like get curious and question a little bit. So, for me, it really has been, it has been setting boundaries, and it has been being really solid in just the knowing of who I am and what I'm being asked to bring forth, and in that, being that solid in myself has really allowed for, yeah, for growth and for spaciousness and for expansion. And but it
And
takes
get
a lot
to
of work.
enjoy
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's really and there's a rebellious part of me that I used to really want to take down. And I've started to very much celebrate that piece of myself, because it also is what lets me bring forth something like The Wild. It's probably saved my life more than a few times. And so I've started to, and it's a new thing for me to really celebrate this like rebellious, even my anger, like to celebrate my anger. Yeah, it's new for me, but it's so liberating. And I think it took me writing a song like The Wild, or writing, I mean, this whole album really, even God's work, to be able to celebrate that part of myself. That was just kind of my way of unfolding, to be able to come home to those pieces and be like, these serve me well.
And this is a part of me too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the anger piece, Lee, it's like we're so conditioned out of our anger,
Mm-hmm.
and we are so not allowed to have it, at least the way that I was raised, that to come home. When I was reading something you had written about this, and it was like there was this connection you were making between the wild, the rage, and the actual coming home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yes, because for me, how it felt inside of me was coming home to all of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
It's not perfection. It's not just optics. It's not what other people think I am. It's not who other people think I am. In that song, and really in this whole album and God's work, there's this sense of exactly what you just said, celebrating the truth of who we are, the dark and the light, the joy and the sadness, the anger. Like, we're allowed to be angry, and we are angry.
Yeah, I mean, to deny that right now would be, I mean, it would be a serious, deep denial for all of us. And I see that happening, which is painful to watch and experience. Like I said, I've been there, so I know the pain of that denial, and it is about wholeness. And that has been my journey, as my podcast is called Holy Human. Like, that has really been my journey. And that, with God's work, like that whole album itself does take a look at duality, of the world of duality, and how we all live in this world of duality, and the light and the dark, and how it all falls under creation. And when we disown these pieces of us, so we dance with the shame so deeply around the anger and the guilt and the rage and the grief, we do cut off massive parts of ourselves. Yeah, it's been such a journey. It's been a 3-4 year journey for me, of really being able to tap into those places and own them. And I think that's what the beautiful thing is about art. Like, I get to create something with that too. I get to move it through me in that way, and like to be able to walk out on stage and sing God's work and The Only and The Wild every night. Like, there's such a cathartic release every time I do it. And to see women have been in the audience just like bawling to The Wild, and it's just like, because it's just like, even if you can't put words on it, like, it taps into something so primal. It's so ancient. And that's like it makes me so happy to see women kind of having that cathartic release along with me.
Yeah, it's like the payoff in a way for all your hard work. But what I find so fascinating about your process, though, Lee, is like going into, like, you hear a line, and then you go, and it's like this song kind of drops in, and you write this song. Your unconscious mind and your spiritual self. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I'm not a songwriter. I don't know what the process is, but from a therapeutic point of view, because it's literally the only lens I have, I'm like, wow. Because you said at the time, I may not know why I'm writing about something, but then it's almost like in the writing, the why of it gets revealed. Is that what you meant?
Oh, absolutely. There's been times that I've written songs where I didn't know how I felt about something until I finished writing it. So it's definitely every writing process for me each time is definitely self-discovery of the truest piece of how I feel. And I try, like I said, I try not to judge or edit, which can be a challenge. But that's also, for me, I've learned it's like a muscle. It's a muscle that I flex, that I've learned how, especially I wish I could do that in every part of my life. I'm getting there. But creativity and writing is, and singing, like those have always been the ways I could express what felt like it has either had gone unexpressed, or that I hadn't been able to truly touch into the deepest piece of my own truth. And so, yeah, it's just a muscle of continuing to just notice the mind and being like, okay, moving that to the side, moving that to the side. It is a very, very, very spiritual experience to create something like this. No matter if it's about, no matter what the topic is, still what we're bringing through is you're touching into all of creation. Like if you really think about it, a book, an album, like a piece of a painting, a film, you're taking something out of thin air, like, and creating bringing it into something. So it is like, I've birthed a lot of children in my life in that way. I've never birthed one of my own. I don't think I ever will. But I've brought so many in. It's all the same energy, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. It still boggles my mind.
It's creation.
Yeah.
Right? Creation. That's really what we're talking about. Making manifest something from nothing.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I know.
And that if you didn't exist on this earth, those things that you have manifested would never exist on this earth. Those things I've manifested would never exist. That is a little bit trippy when you think about it.
It
you're
is.
Like,
wow. And what I love about that, all of our fingerprints are so unique. All of our lenses are so unique. Like each and every one of us don't have the same life experiences, the same traumas, the same dramas of life, whatever it may be, that create who we are in this moment in time. And so, I look at so many artists, and I've heard people say like, I don't, someone's already done that. I don't want to bring that through or whatever. And it's like, no. The template might all be similar, but our own unique lens it's one of a kind. And so you're right. Like each one of us has something unique to bring to the table that will, and if we don't bring it through, it gets lost.
Yeah, it will never be here, which is kind of amazing. All right, I have one more question I want to ask you, but this is what we're celebrating in this episode is really God's work. So you guys know it drops tomorrow. All the information I already told you at the top. Everything you need to know is going to be in the show notes. I'm so excited for you. And I have to say, Lee, it's like you being where you are right now in your career, having had such a long career. My experience of you is you are so vital. Like you are so alive and in motion and doing new and interesting things. Like some people, I'm just saying, 25 years more in the biz, you'd be resting on your laurels, but you don't. You do risky things and creative things, and I just have so much deep respect.
Thank you.
For you as an artist, as a friend, as a human, as a woman, as a leader with what you're doing right now. All your hard work is paying off, babe. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you. I have to keep it interesting for myself. Like there's no reason why I would want to sing anymore. I've done it all. Unless it's it's true. Like I've done it all. And so
you have.
It's now I think I've gotten really clear on why I'm doing what I'm doing. Yeah, and I'm constantly looking to expand, I guess, all the facets of my voice. Like one facet was really clear and strong ever since I was a kid, and then now I'm tapping into all of these other places that want to speak through me. And so yeah, it's just if I'm not challenging myself, I'm bored, and I'm constantly looking for that. So I appreciate it. It is risky right now, and I'm enjoying the risk. Like there's the rebellious piece of me is like super fulfilled in this moment.
I love it. All right, my last question for you is about a boundary.
Yeah.
Personally, what has been your most challenging boundary struggle, and how did you overcome it, if you have?
Ooh. One of my biggest is definitely codependency and taking care of other people's feelings. And I have to really watch myself in my closest relationships, because I don't like people being angry at me. I don't like people feeling upset about life. And I can feel it when they are. I'm like, can I fix it for you? What can I do? And I see myself like reverting back into this child. And I've gotten really good at reminding once again that little LeAnn, like, you're safe. It's okay. It's okay if people have their own space and their own feelings, and like, it's not, you're not causing it. You're not unsafe because someone feels the way they do. Um,
Yep.
I've had to learn that, and it's still, and some days are better than others, and some days I'm super solid on that. It just depends on the day, but that's probably been my biggest challenge, is like really untangling from the need to fix people's feelings so that I feel safe.
Yep. I love it. All right. Well, you guys, you know what to do. You know where to go.
Yes.
I want to say thank you so much for spending so much
Oh my
time with
gosh,
us
thanks for
today, Leah. I
having
really
me.
appreciate you.
I love you so
To
much.
be continued. I
Yes.
love you too.
Thank you.